My name is Anu, and I am a survivor of childhood trauma and domestic violence. So, my journey started from the age of 8 when I was sexually abused by our tenant at the time. And this carried on for quite a few years. And it was only really when I approached my 30s that I started to get flashbacks, and I was having nightmares and just really horrific kind of smells with the partners that I was with at the time, and I didn't realise what it was until I actually spoke to a healer who described that that I might be experiencing PTSD symptoms, and that's when it kind of all the memories came back. I don't have many memories, but the ones that I do are quite vivid, and yeah, it still traumatizes me to this day that somebody could be so vicious and mean and take advantage of such a young child. So it did affect my confidence, and I just felt like throughout my kind of school years I was very suppressed, very submissive, and I wasn't very social. I didn't really want to have too many friends because I lacked a lot of self-confidence and a lot of self-esteem. And this did reflect on my whole kind of schooling and my studies, and just I remember when I was doing my A-levels that the trauma came back, and I then started to suffer from eating disorders, and I would kind of eat a lot. I'd have like my main meals, and then what I'd do is, because I felt so low and I hated doing my A-levels anyway, I just used to eat cereals, and then I'd eat bread, and oh god, I was just eating so much. And I did actually become from like I guess I was probably a size 10, I went up to size 14. So, and that was down to the fact that I was using food as a comfort. So that happened, and then I was also attracting a lot of bad people into my life as well. By people, I say just like boys and men who would, because I felt like I was vulnerable, I must have had like vulnerability written on my forehead, that a lot of the kind of college boys used to harass me, and I was pushed into an alleyway by one of them, and he was groping me, and I just felt really scared because I felt like he was going to rape me. But then an incident happened at a club, probably one of the first times that I went to a club when I was 18, and I got headbutted on my nose, and he actually broke my nose. I've still got like a dent here. I did actually had to have it surgically fixed because there was like a bit of a hump there, and it's still not great, but the hump's gone, and that was because I wouldn't kiss the boy. Well, I say boy, he was probably a few years older than me. So that happened, and then when I went to university, that's when I discovered drugs, and that's when I started to really self-destruct and use drugs as my escape. The kind of, it was ecstasy at the time, so what we'd do is obviously drop a pill, and and that's when I discovered like feelings of euphoria, and I got a bit addicted to that because it just felt so good, the fact that I was then able to escape from my true feelings of how I was really feeling. So that went on for a year or two, and then I started to get depressed again, and I became bulimic, so I would eat and puke up. And then I tried to end my life a couple of times as well. One of them was when I was high, and I went to kind of jump off like a 3-story balcony. But even though I did actually climb over, I was actually saved because there was like plants, and there was kind of things there which meant that I couldn't really jump so easily. And then I was kind of just hanging off this kind of like a planty area of this balcony, and then my friends had seen what I was doing, and they came to drag me back up, and they were traumatized as well. I mean, I was high, so I just thought it was funny. But deep down inside, I was really struggling, and I really did want to end my life. But it was just a facade that I kept putting on, and I think a lot of people saw that, and a lot of people distanced away from me because I wasn't really great to be around, because I was just so like fake looking, and I wasn't being authentic because I didn't know I didn't know who I was, so how could I even be real? So I was just trying to be different people. I remember in my mid-20s as well, when I would bleach my hair like really yellow blonde, and wear like bright red or pink lipstick. I just looked really messy. And also I'd fake tan where I would look orange, my skin would go orange. And that's because I just didn't like who I really was. I didn't like my dark hair, I didn't like my skin colour, and I just wanted to be somebody totally different. And even though my name's Anu, I used to tell everyone my name was Anna. So I was having a bit of an identity crisis. There was also a few years where I had a change of sexuality as well. So, I actually thought that I was a lesbian. I became bisexual, and then I did actually become a lesbian for a few years as well. And that's because I just felt safer with women. And, it just felt like it was the best thing to do, considering that I'd been so hurt by men already. So, and then I went traveling, which really helped me to heal, because I was able to go to some amazing places like in Thailand and in Cambodia, Laos, and I worked in Australia as well, and it was just really refreshing for me to be somewhere away from England. And then again, I could be somebody else. I loved it in Southeast Asia because for me that was like my spiritual place, and I was able to kind of go and relax with the monks there, which I loved because the monks just reminded me of peace. They're very simple beings, and I just loved being around their presence. I'd just literally sit next to them and just smile at them and try and exchange a few bits of English, as much as they could obviously communicate back. But it was just so beautiful just to be in their presence. And so that's when I kind of realised that, wow, spirituality, it just felt like a bit of a distant away from, where I was at the time. And it was such a blissful place to be that I knew eventually I'd find the spirituality that I sought. So, but I still had a bit of an obstacle journey to go through before I got to my spiritual place. So kind of once my kind of, identity crisis had shifted a little bit, I then went back to dating men. And that was a journey in itself, because I then attract narcissists, sociopaths. I dated an alcoholic for a few years, and then there was also somebody who was addicted to drugs as well. So none of these men served me. If anything, they abused me even more and traumatized me even more. And I remember in one of my flats in Manchester where I'd have like punches in the walls, and all the walls were like cracked, and I'd have to get like someone in to come and seal those cracks, plaster them back up, because there was a couple of the guys who I was with who'd like punched the walls. I suppose at the end of the day it was better than punching my face, so I was grateful that it was wall and not my face. And then one of my exes who had narcissistic traits. I didn't know about narcissism. It was only once we'd actually split up, and he'd actually financially abused me, so he owed me a lot of money. And it was only kind of then, during my trauma state that I was in then, that I started to understand about narcissism. And he had all the traits. He was like grandeur narcissist, as in he was there like really badly. And so he actually had my credit card and bought himself a Panerai watch, which was like a £8,000 watch, and he's still paying me back till this day, because it was actually him who with what happened with him, that I actually sought justice. I decided that I weren't going to let him get away with it, and I went to court. I took him to civil court and I actually won the case. And that was my first ever sign of victory, and it felt really good. And so he was demanded by the court to obviously pay me back. And again, because of the fact that, he always needed to win, he then tried to appeal against the judge's decision, and then and he basically lost that as well. So he was actually then he had to set up like a payment plan with me, which he said that he'd pay me back £35 every month, which meant that for 18 years he'd be paying me back £35 a month. so I see that coming into my account every month at the moment, but it's fine, because at the end of the day, he's still paying back his debt, and for me it's still justice which was served. Obviously, I never saw any justice with any of the perpetrators, because it was just such a long time ago, and I'd already healed and forgiven myself, and forgiven what had happened to me. And so I wasn't, I think the fact that I'd healed from all of that, it didn't really have a burden. And what was having a burden was the most recent incidences with my abusers. And so traveling's always been like my kind of escape. I then did go travelling again, and this time it was really spiritual. I actually went to stay in a monastery in Nepal, and that was beautiful. Just waking up at 4 a.m. to meditations and just being in a blissful state. It was amazing, to be honest. And then when I got back, I was in a much better state, and that's when I did actually meet the partner that I'm with now, Rob. And we had a baby boy together, even though I did actually get postnatal depression, because again the trauma did come back, so I had to heal from that. But then during that healing journey, I then wrote a book, and I started a podcast by the names of both by the names of Victim to Victor. And it's all kind of geared for people like myself who have overcome childhood trauma and domestic abuse, who are on a journey of healing. And again, it's to inspire people, even if they're not on the journey for healing. I want them to be. I want to inspire people to start that journey, because you need to. There's no point in living in fear and living in your trauma state for the rest of your life. You deserve to live. You deserve to have a fulfilling life. And so that's what my book and podcast all aim to do. And I am here to help people. I'm here to serve, and I am now working towards my feature drama film, which is going to be adapted from my book Victim to Victor. So my new movie is by the name of Silent Screams: A Girl's Journey to Reclaim Her Voice. And so that excites me, because now people will not only be able to kind of read my book and listen to it on audio, they'll be able to see it on screen with real life actors. I also spent a lot of my time qualifying in various healing modalities, such as Reiki. I became a Reiki master. I also became a hypnotherapist, emotional freedom therapist, and I qualified as a yoga teacher. And I also trained with our personal development guru, Tony Robbins. During his seminars, we did some fantastic work at Date with Destiny, as well as Unleash the Power Within. And I also joined his Mastery University. And then I went on to study his strategic intervention coaching as well. So I've absolutely loved my transformation during my education and my healing, and which is why I am now out there helping others through my trauma coaching and healing practices. So I'm also out there helping my clients to not only process the trauma, but to also then move on in their lives, to form better relationships, and to be more resilient, and to live a more fulfilling life in all areas of their life. Because I know that trauma's impact can be huge on both the self-worth, as well as how they form relationships, because it can be quite a challenge to actually form relationships, healthy ones anyway. I mean, I am living proof that we can all heal, we can all move on and create a much better life for ourselves. And I want you all to know out there that it's never too late to ask for help, and that this is a beautiful life that we're here on earth to live, and we should never be suffering in darkness or silence. I urge you all to speak out and to get help and to just live a much more fulfilling life. Thank you for your time, everyone.